Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're also on BitChute and YouTube, the Speaking Podcast. I also have the Awakening Podcast, the Learn Polish Podcast, and the Meditation Podcast, and all can be found on roycollin.com. Today, my guest from Dallas, Texas, please welcome Tiffany Foote.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to this. So first of all, you might let the audience know who's Tiffany.
So I am a communication coach and I am based in Dallas, Texas. You might hear a little bit of my Texas accent today, so hopefully you enjoy it and it doesn't bother you. But I'm a communication coach. So I help people overcome public speaking fear and I help them communicate more effectively and just feel more confident when they're presenting their ideas, whether it's in meetings and boardrooms. And I have people come to my classes and I'm like, even if it's to your spouse or to your friends, like if you just want to speak more confidently, then I can help you.
Excellent.
So that's, I guess that's me professionally. Personally, I'm a dog mom to 2 dogs, a military spouse to a guy who served in the military for 9 years now. And one day I dream of having a house on enough land for me to own a ostrich because I think that's the closest I can get to a velociraptor. And I think that would be really fun to have an ostrich running around, just acting crazy. I just think it'd be so much fun. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, I've heard of a lot of people's ambitions, but it's the first time in my life somebody wanting an ostrich, but excellent.
It's fun and it's kind of off the wall, but
exactly. That's why I like it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I always like something that's different.
Yeah, so, I think an ostrich would be fun to have.
I always like to know the kind of speaker's journey. So just wondering, when you were younger, were you kind of confident or were you shy?
So I actually was a really shy child. I wouldn't even order my own food at a restaurant until I was probably like 14. And my mother was like, you have to start doing this. She was like, you're in high school. Like it's time. Like you need to start speaking up for yourself. And it was interesting because I was really interested in theater. And I liked theater, but I liked the production side. Like I wanted to do the lights and the cameras and the costume design. I wasn't super interested in being in the spotlight. And I liked speech and debate, but those competitions were like much more closed off. There was only a few of us in the room. It wasn't like it was in front of a lot of people. And so I enjoyed those things, but it wasn't, I didn't like talking to a lot of people or in front of a lot of people. And then I got to college and I had to give presentation after presentation after presentation. And it was nerve-wracking. And I always thought I was going to have a heart attack. And in order to graduate, so I went to school to become an elementary school teacher. That was originally what I got my degree in. And in order to graduate, I had to give a presentation in front of a board of directors and the dean of the School of Education. And it was, it's called a Pechakucha. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like, it's very specific. So it's 20 slides and each slide has one picture on it and nothing else. And you have to speak for 20 seconds about each slide and they move automatically. So you have to know your speech. You basically have to memorize it. And you have to give it in front of this board of directors and they determine if you are going to graduate and walk the stage or not. And it was so terrifying. And I thought I was just going to die on stage. My heart was beating out of my chest. I was sweating profusely and I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was just like, no, like this isn't for me. I got through it. I'm pretty sure they felt bad for me. Like I think it was just like pity for all the students because we were all just wrecks. And we all graduated. I think it was just more of like getting through it, like we just had to accomplish it. Like I don't think they were going to fail anybody on purpose. And it was a research project that we had to do. And then I graduated. I got into the career world and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I became a leasing agent for a little bit because it was fun. I got to meet people and again, really close interaction, not really in front of a lot of people. Again, very shy and introverted. The less interaction with people, the better. Like I'm a self-checkout person. Like if I don't have to interact with somebody, then I probably won't. and somehow landed at the Leaders Institute. I actually joined here as an executive assistant. And my boss, Doug Stainert, he saw something in me that I haven't really seen in myself, or that I hadn't seen in myself. And he was like, "You'd be a great communication coach." And I said, "I'm not the droid that you are looking for. Like, I don't know what you're delusional. You're crazy." He was like, "No, I've been doing this for years. You've got it." And I was like, "You're wrong. No, not doing it. Not me." Well, then he spent the last couple of years teaching me kind of like what he knows, everything that he knows, teaching me how to teach, how to communicate effectively. And now I have zero shame getting in front of people and talking, and kind of just not being afraid to speak or share my mind. Right before COVID hit, I went to a social media conference, and part of the conference, I volunteered to be a part of this, like, I don't know, 50-person like choir. They were asking people to be part of this like little musical event. And I volunteered to be part of it. There were 6,000 people at that conference. And I volunteered to be on stage in front of all those people to be part of this musical event. And I did it. No shame. And I never would have done that before. Like, I would have rather been dead in jail. I would have spent a night in jail than do something like that before. And now I get to speak and teach and travel and talk to people all the time. And I love it. And I think I love it so much now because I really overcame a lot. Like, I was so shy, like from the core of my being. And I've been able to overcome that. And I'm still pretty introverted today, but now I'm just not fearful of it. Like, I'm not afraid to talk to people. I'm not afraid to get to know somebody. I'm not afraid to stand in front of an audience and say, "Hi, my name's Tiffany. And guess what? I used to almost have panic attacks every time I had to talk and give a presentation." Straight up. I would take a Benadryl before I would get up and talk, in hopes it would calm my nerves down. And now I'm doing podcasts, and it's like, if you had asked me 3 years ago if I would be doing this today, nah, I would have laughed at you. Would have not even done anything like this, or people could hear me speak and listen to me and watch videos of me. Never would have done it. But I've just I've overcome it because I've had the opportunities to learn and grow and realize that I'm never going to be perfect, but nothing I do or say will cause the world to crash and burn. And that's okay.
I love that. I love that because I actually have a kind of similar journey. I was so shy. I remember I wouldn't go into a sweet shop. I used to give my friend the money to buy the sweets. When I was 18, when we started going to the bar, I wouldn't go up to the bar. I used to give my friend the money. When it was my turn to buy the drinks, I'd give him the money. And so I wish if there was a teleporter that you could go back in time, I would give myself a slap in the head, because it's only like 4 years, I got into the Toastmasters and starting, and I'm the same now. I don't care what size in audiences, I'll step up there. But, I think it's good to go through that shift as well, because you realize what's the worst that can happen. And what you just said is a lovely way of kind of analyzing it, because there's people listening. Obviously, there's people that are speakers that want to be better speakers and they learn tips and tricks, but there's also people that are just, they're probably where we were. And they think that they're alone. And the reality is a load of people are like that. And I was actually talking to somebody today, and they were basically president of a speakers association, and basically saying that so many of the speakers, before they go on stage, they were nervous. I mean, there's still something there, because I think that means you care. It's like, because obviously you've kind of some extroverts, they'll go up and they don't care about anything, but they tend to talk about themselves instead of connecting with the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. As a communication coach, I've channeled my energy from, well, I don't have to get up there and talk about how cool I am, but it's okay, what can I offer the audience, right? And like I like to use the analogy of, like, I have a cookie that you want. Like, I have a cookie. And so take my cookie. Here are my tips, right? And like I tell people all the time, we all feel nervous before we go on stage, right? But they don't see that. They don't see your butterflies. They don't see, the anxiousness in your stomach, or they don't see your heart beating outside of your chest. They see somebody who's walking on stage with purpose. They see somebody who's moving more, right? Because you're trying to work out the nervous energy. But they see somebody who's moving more, and that shows energy and enthusiasm to them. It doesn't come across as, oh my gosh, they're so nervous. It comes across as, wow, they're so energetic. They are so passionate.
What I've seen is because I've done evaluations in the speak, but I'd watch a speaker from the minute they're going up to coming off, and you see some of them, you can see the relief on their face. I mean, they should remember people are looking at them, but it's a kind of as they're coming off the stage, coming down, they're forgetting that there's people actually watching them the whole way. So yeah, a lot of people kind of have that. So you were you're doing a lot of stuff online. Yeah. So how was the switch for kind of dealing directly with people to the online scene?
It's funny that you say that because, or that you bring this up, because my first Zoom interaction, like when COVID hit, all the nervousness that I experienced when I was like doing in-person stuff came back. It was totally different. The thing is like when you're in a room with somebody, you get their energy, you can feed off of them, you have more eye engagement. It's different. And then you go to Zoom and people have their cameras turned off and like they're just staring at you like, and you're like, can you move? Like, are you a statue? Or they pull out their phones and they're on their phones and you're just like, hello, like I'm here. But actually I had joined a book club over COVID because I wanted something to do and it was something to look forward to. And one of the first presentations that I did over Zoom was actually over a book that I was reading. And it was Extreme Ownership. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a pretty good book. It's about some Navy SEALs. They talk about extreme ownership and how good leaders take extreme ownership. And I was like, I'll go first in my head and think, I'm a communication coach. I can do this. I can handle this. I've got this. I was a little cocky, I'll be honest. And I get on and every fear and anxiety and all stress just like came flooding back to me. And I literally stumbled through it all. Thank God I didn't tell them I was a communication coach until like the next time we met. and I used my first time as an example. I said, so obviously the last time y'all saw me, I was really, really nervous. I was like, but that just goes to show, like, it doesn't matter how long you're in this, everybody gets nervous, but I was like, you get through it, you overcome it. And I was like, you know what? Roof didn't cave in. The world didn't set on fire. We're still meeting again. And I was like, it's okay. You learn from it, you move on. And I was like, it is different. So I was like, if y'all feel that it's different when you're going back to work or doing work meetings, just know that it is, and it's okay. And I tried to use that as a teaching moment too, for not only for myself, but for those who were also part of the group. But yes, it was a pretty tough transition for me. And then it got easier over time as I kept doing it.
Yeah, I've experienced that. I mean, obviously, like I think webinars would have been the first thing, doing a webinar with people and you get nervous. And then I overcame public speaking by doing speeches, and that was grand. And I've done competitions online, which was the strangest thing ever, because you were talking about people not looking, like when they're doing the competitions, the camera's off except for the timer, and that person is just looking at you, and I was doing humorous speech and they weren't even engaging, and it's hard to do something like that. But regarding, like, now I'm doing weekly live calls, and sometimes they're over 2 hours, and no nervousness. I actually thoroughly enjoy it. But twice it's happened to me. I don't know why. I've had David Icahn once live and once on my show. The only person, I mean, because I kind of look up to what he's done. I know I kind of, appreciate all the information he's sharing. Got very nervous and the others were kind of looking at me because it never happens. And another thing is a Clubhouse. I'm not sure if you're actually using Clubhouse, but that's a new platform that is kind of audio. It's like a radio show. And I think for the first 10 times I was in rooms, my voice. Yeah. And I was like, why I can go on stage in front of people, talk, no problem. And here, nobody can see me. I'm nervous. And I was like, but now again, it's just the practice. And now it's okay again. But it's weird. Like sometimes you think, I can speak in public. This is no problem. No, it's a different medium and you just have to get used to it.
Yeah, it's totally different. Even doing podcast, it was another transition because I never done a podcast before. So I did my first podcast in December. And they didn't release the video. It was just audio, but they recorded, like we were on video. They just only released the audio of it. And I was like really nervous because I'd never done it before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know like the protocols or like what was normal or anything. They sought me out and asked me to be on their podcast. And I was like, sure, like I can talk. I'm thinking like it's a phone call. And at the end of it, I mean, when they stopped recording, I was like, I have to be honest with you guys. I was like, my voice is shaking. I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I was really nervous. And they were like, no, it was fine. It's fine. They're like, you were nervous? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I need to take a really deep breath. Just give me a second because I was so worked up. And they're like, no, it was great. It was great. And I was like, this is my first podcast. And they were like, oh, wow. And I was like, yeah, I had no idea what to expect. And I was like, so hopefully it went really well. Hopefully you guys can use it for something, like I was just, if you have to file it away somewhere and just, oh, that was experience, that's totally fine. Because it was hard to get used to. But now that I've been doing it more and I'm actually getting ready to start my own, it's becoming much more easier to be interviewed. And it's nice because it's conversational. I will say recording podcasts when it's just me on the line and I'm like going through a topic that I'm just talking about, it's challenging because there's no visual or audio feed. Like there's no one talking to you. There's no one saying, hey, can you clarify that? Or reacting to anything. And that's a little bit challenging because it's like, am I coming across the way that I want to? But yeah, all these different channels of communication, it's every time you transition, there's going to be an adjustment period. And then you're going to have those times when you're like, I've done this before. Why am I nervous? Why am I like, what is happening?
No, exactly. And I'm the exact same with the, like, say, a solo cast, because the odd time I would actually do one on my, and it just feels so strange because I've no problem. I mean, I'm after doing over, I don't know, nearly 400 podcasts at this stage, with it, because I've got 4 of them. So, I do a lot. Yeah. And anytime I'm doing a solo one, it just feels so strange to me. It's weird. And a good friend of mine, he's got another podcast and I wanted him on my show and he kind of was putting it off. And I was like, and he was like, no. And in the end, he said, I'm extremely nervous, even though he had his own podcast because he was in control. Coming on mine, he said he was extremely nervous. And I mean, I could see that he was a bit nervous, but now, because we're doing loads of lives and we actually do a load together because we're basically exposing a lot of the corruption and everything, he's after coming in so much. But I think it's strange because you think because you're podcasting, it's no problem, going on another person's podcast, but you're basically reversing the roles. And yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I've been the interviewee for a few times. Now I'm like on the opposite side where I'm getting ready to start interviewing and doing some solo cast. And it's like, oh, this is weird when nobody's on the other side, nodding or asking questions or making comments. And it's a little quiet. And then I listen back to it and I'm like, is that right? Did that sound right? And then I start second guessing myself, like, was that okay? And then I just become like self-deprecating in my mind. I'm like, that wasn't right. That wasn't good. And then I get to the point where I hate the sound of my own voice. I don't know if you get that way, trying to listen to something that you've recorded. I'm like, I've listened to this too many times. I can't do this anymore. I need a break.
No, I've heard a load of, I've never had that, but I've heard a load of people say that they actually don't like listening to the voice and that, but I just do it. And most of the times, like, I don't do a second run, with the Polish one, and it's just like go. And it's it's like if you're doing it live, because I'm used to doing the live one now, but it's a lot less editing and a lot less work and hours, because at the end of the day we've all got the same amount of hours in the day. So the less that you be caught, let's do this again. Yeah. I once or twice have kind of mentioned the wrong podcast by mistake, and I just said, well, I need to start that one again. But other than that, yeah, it's enjoyable. Yeah.
I could not imagine like juggling 4 different podcasts with 4 different, completely different topics and then trying to manage everything. Yeah, I probably would mix up the names all the time.
And what have I just decided to do? I started another one, so it's I'm doing recordings at the moment before the launch. I'm doing a crypto one now as well. And basically, the reason why I started a different one, the one I'm doing the crypto, I see there's so much fraud out there. There's people trying to sell stuff, and there's just different platforms and everything. People don't understand this. It's just kind of talking to the people that I can trust and my own knowledge and just sharing it. Yeah, at the end of the day, if you know you're helping somebody, it's a nice feeling.
Yeah, that's what I really like about what I do, is because at the end of the day, like, I just want to help somebody feel confident. If I can help somebody avoid what I went through, then I've done my job. Like, then I'm happy. And what I really love about podcast is during COVID, I feel like they exploded because everybody was looking for a way to connect with people. We were finding we wanted some form of like human connection. And podcasts really became that, I think, for a lot of, I know it became that for me. I would listen to so many different podcasts just to hear different people talk about different subjects, to learn. I would listen to like fictional ones that like told stories or whatever. And it's just, it became such I think a really common thing. And now that we're heading back into the workforce, and I know here in America, like, things are really on track to head back towards normal. And podcasts are still like growing, and they're still on fire, and it's becoming a new way for us to learn and to connect, right? Because you're obviously not here, and I never would have connected with you otherwise. So it's opened up a really great opportunity for us to connect and learn. And I love that. And if that's, all I do with it, then that's perfect. That's all I want to do, is to be able to connect, learn, and grow doing this and helping others.
Yeah, excellent. So you've done some workshop and events.
Yeah. So basically, our company, we operate pre-COVID outside of this in the United States, in Europe, and in Canada. We do public speaking workshops, and we do team building events, which is a lot of fun. But basically, our workshops are really geared towards building highly impactful leaders. So people in businesses that are like, you know what, we have a lot of new hires, or we're getting ready to promote people. We really want to make sure that they're empowered to be really good, impactful leaders in their new roles or whatever. We come in, we kind of lead those workshops. And part of that is teaching people how to communicate effectively and how to kind of overcome public speaking fear. And when I teach, I go through my stories and the times that I've messed up and how I've overcome them, and how practicing gets you, the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And I always say practice, not perfection. Every time that you go to give a speech, look at it as like it's just another practice. Like, you're just doing it again. You don't want it to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. And that's okay. Once you're okay with not being perfect, then you're going to be one step closer to being more confident. And just going out there and doing it. So we do things like that. We have our public speaking classes, and everything kind of moved virtual with the world when everything else moved virtual. So we have our virtual classes, which has been really fun because we have been able to have people from all over the world come to our classes. And we typically have them during the day here. And there was a one time we had somebody, oh man, I don't even know where it's from. It's a country that I can't pronounce. And her class would start when she got off of, like, the class start when she got off of work, but it was like morning time here. And then it would end when it was like almost midnight her time when it would end. And she would do the class though, because she wanted to become a better speaker. And she had so much insight. She worked with UNICEF. She had so much insight on how people in other countries communicated. And it was just, it's interesting because it's different, right? Because in America, we have these perceptions on how presentations should be done, or how you should communicate, how you should introduce yourself. We don't really think about how other people do that. Like when you hopped on, you said, how do you pronounce your surname? And it's funny, I knew what you meant, but like I typically just don't hear surname very often. We call it our last name, right? And that's just because it's different. My last name's Foot, like the foot of the hill. And that's actually from obviously it's my husband's last name, but they're Italian. And when their family was in Italy, that they were named Foots because they lived at the foot of the hill. So that's where their family name came from. That's why I said that the way I said it. So it's been interesting, and it's been so fun to bring people from all over the world who normally wouldn't be able to get to meet, right? Like I normally wouldn't get to meet and talk to you, because normally our classes are in set cities. So we have classes in Dallas, and typically people who come to that, people in Dallas. We actually have a class in Ireland. People who register for classes in Ireland, only people in Ireland. You're not typically going to have somebody from Dallas, Texas register for a class in Ireland. And our CEO, Doug, he would actually teaches those classes because his wife is from Ireland and her family lives out there. So whenever we have those classes go, and like the classes in London and stuff, they actually fly out and they teach them because they get to visit family. So, but it's just been really interesting. It's been really fun. We've talked a lot about keeping our virtual classes just for that sense of community that we typically haven't had, that broad spectrum community of bringing literally people from New York and Europe and, Florida, and bringing them together and saying, hey, like, how can we learn from each other, and how can we together become better communicators and better leaders?
And because when I was investigating the website, there's different things that you were saying doing. I actually have them written down, and I'm wondering, are you able to do them on the for events like on the virtual, like the just for fun and the charity ones? Are you able to? So just curious how you're doing that.
Yeah. So our charity events are like Build a Bike. Build a Bike is our top charity event, and essentially the gist of it is, people work together to solve puzzles, right? And each puzzle or problem that they solve earns them a bike piece. And that bike piece gets to go towards a representative at a charity to a child, and they get to build a bike. And typically that charity will give the bike to a child who wouldn't have a bike if it weren't for this event, right? So it goes to a child who needs a bike, who wants a bike, but doesn't have the means to have a bike. It's a really fun event. And so when we do it virtually, we have teams on Zoom who meet. We put them in breakout rooms. We get them all riled up. And then we have a charity that will find wherever it is. It's local to wherever the team is, right? So if we're doing this for somebody in Ireland, then we would find a charity local to Ireland. If we're doing this for somebody in New York, we'd find a charity local to the company that we're doing it for in New York. If we're doing this for somebody in Dallas, we try to find it local to whoever we're doing it to, right? Because we want to have that company to have a direct impact on their own community. That's something that we really push for. And then what we do is we ship the bikes to that charity. And then we have either the charity representatives they will build the bikes, or they'll have the kids do it. And we have them log into Zoom from their location so that they can meet the charity representatives, they can meet the kids, and they can kind of pop in and out of rooms and see what's going on. And it's really fun because we'll do like, hey, team 2, this is your kid, or this is your representative, and you just earn them, handlebars. And so you'll see them putting on the handlebars and like trying to get it done. And at the end, if we can have the kids at the charity there, then your team will get to meet the child and say like, hey, team 2, this is the kid. They get to take home this bike today. And like the kid will usually say thank you. And sometimes there's tears shed because it's such a heartwarming moment. So that's really fun. And the just for fun ones, I think In It to Win It is on there. I don't know if you've ever seen the Minute to Win It. It's a very similar game show where they take like 60 seconds and they do silly activities. But that can be done virtually. Basically, we just ship out the supplies, and it can be shipped out individually to individual homes, or it can be shipped out to like the leader of the event, our main contact, and they can distribute it. We do have a lot of virtual things that we've created. like the My Rich Uncle, which is a virtual escape room. We actually have several variations of our virtual escape rooms. It's all done on Zoom. But the My Rich Uncle is your very rich uncle. What's his name? It's something Moneybags, I think. And he has unfortunately died, and he has left his inheritance for you. But in order for you to find it, you have to solve, a series of puzzles and problems. And if you want to be the one to get the inheritance, and you're fighting against your other family members, which are the other teams, to get the inheritance first. So we have that. We have a pirate escape room where you're trying to find hidden treasure. We've done a lot to try to make team building fun virtually, and to make virtual meetings more fun, because for being honest, they're pretty boring. They're not super fun. They're not super exciting. We like to think that we're pretty an exciting and lively group. I know that I'm pretty I can be pretty exciting and pretty lively. That's just kind of the energy of our whole team. We work and operate on the idea that we can walk into any situation and any room, any virtual meeting, and we can change the atmosphere with the fun that we can bring and our positive attitude. We can change the environment, and we know that we can, and we do it, and we have fun. When we come in the meetings, sometimes we've done meetings for lawyers, and I don't know if you've ever been in a virtual meeting with 30 lawyers.
That's like 30 accountants, I think, is kind of similar.
But when we come in and we're like, hey, we're super thrilled. We're super thrilled to be here. And then by the end of it, you have them shouting at the screens, no, do this. We're going to win. It is so fun to see that in them. It's fun to see people get into it and have fun, and to almost forget that they're on a screen for a second, and to feel like they're with their team. So it's fun. We get to do it all the time. It's literally the best job in the world to bring people together and to help them become more effective in more ways than one, and to have a lot of fun while doing it.
That sounds very interesting, because I know that just from listening to a few people that I know that are in corporations, they're not meeting up, and there's nothing like that. I mean, obviously, when things weren't gone to craziness, they would have once a month go away and the team building exercise. But that's very interesting. And I think anybody would, because a lot of people like the escape rooms. So that's a brilliant way of actually doing it online. So yeah, I think.
It's really interesting, because you can go to an escape room and you can have fun, right? But all of our activities are built and designed to actually teach teams something. So we teach you core things about working together, or personalities, or different units working together as one. It's a lot of fun, but we actually teach you tools that'll help you in the workplace. You have the rah motivational speakers, pizza nights, pool parties. You have that on one end, and then you have the super technical training on the other end that is super, super boring. And we're kind of the perfect mix in the middle, because we bring a lot of fun, but we also give you a lot of the tools and a lot of the technical stuff that will help you in the workplace even after you leave.
No, that sounds fascinating. And did you do some acting, or were you involved with any acting?
I did. So I did a tiny bit of theater in college, because I got a scholarship. I had applied for a scholarship randomly through the theater department, and I got it. But to do it, I had to be part of a play. And in the play, I was a reporter. And so I did a little bit, but not a ton. Now I would. Now I don't care. I don't mind being in front of people anymore, but not really before. Not a whole lot.
Brilliant. And so you said you're planning on doing your own podcast, yeah?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually getting ready. I'm doing the groundwork right now. We just decided to do this a couple weeks ago. It's going to be called the Above My Pay Grade podcast, because there are so many times when people that are executive support staff, or that work in HR, or just anyone in general, and they end up in a situation and they go, this is above my pay grade. I am doing this. this is not for me. This is for somebody else, and they're faced with the challenge and they end up overcoming it. And I've been in executive support staff. I've been in the HR kind of roles. And with COVID, I really think it'd be really fun to showcase the people that have had to make the hard decisions and say, this isn't like, this challenge is for somebody else. This is above my pay grade. And I want to hear how they overcame them. And I want to share them with the world, because I think other people need to know that there's hope, and that if you're faced with a situation at work that you feel like you can't overcome, there's a chance somebody else has already faced it. And, maybe that they have some tools that they can use to help them overcome it. Yeah, so that's what I want to do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think it's a brilliant name. And I've heard that statement a lot of times as well. So I think a lot of people can relate to that, and hopefully they'll start listening. So listen, it's been wonderful speaking to you, Tiffany. So how can people get in contact with you?
So they can reach me at fearlesspresentations.com/the Fearless Millennial. That is my direct webpage. There's a contact form where name, email, and phone number. It comes straight to me, nobody else. And they can ask for training. They can ask questions on how to get in touch with me in general for podcasting, everything. If they just want to get in touch with me, that's the best way to do it, because it gets to me and no one else. So fearlesspresentations.com/the Fearless Millennial.
I think anybody that's working for a corporation that's listening, they'll definitely want to get their company to actually be talking to you, because I think that sounds something very interesting with all these escape rooms and just your energy. I think they're sure to enjoy it. Listen, Tiffany, thank you very much.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you.
So that's all for the Speaking Podcast. I'll have all the links in the description below of Tiffany, so you'll be able to find her. And once her podcast is released, I'll also include that in the description. So you'll find all my episodes on speakingpodcast.com. Until next week, take care.